Hey everybody, welcome to the Fire It Up with CJ show. Today we are going to be learning all about de-stressing and how you can take a couple of common scenarios in your life and be chill about it. And so we have the expert, Davidji here, talking about his book, Destressifying, and hopefully guiding us through some experiences so that we can de-stress ourselves. So welcome, Davidji.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I am fired up. Thanks for bringing me on board.
All right, good. So I want to ask you, and I just have this vision of you just being like chill and calm all the time. So when's the last time you were stressful, and how did you deal with it?
The last time I was that I had that was experiencing stress in my life was yesterday, uh,
Oh, good.
and I had to be someplace, and I had to be there in 10 minutes, and I was an hour away,
Oh,
stuck
wow.
stuck in traffic.
Yeah,
So I thought I had left plenty of time, but clearly I had not.
yeah.
And so I was experiencing, I projected into the future. Oh, here's, how unprofessional. I'm feeling so horrible. Oh, I'm so disappointed in myself. Oh, of course I should have left 4 hours early for a 2 hour drive. All the different things.
Right.
And then I used a whole bunch of stress busters during the drive because I was, absolutely just sitting on a highway, not moving for, I don't know, 40 minutes. There had been an accident. And so we were all just stuck there. So I was breathing and I was shouting and I was doing stuff with my hands. And I'm sure it was very entertaining for the, the guy who was stopped right next
As long as your eyes weren't shut.
to me.
You're like driving along. Oh, I'm in a scenic, beautiful place. Okay, so you were, and are you finding that do, does having these techniques mean that stress happens less often, or do you go more quickly to a calm place as a result of? Because I presume you've been doing this for a really long time.
Yeah, well, it's a great question. I think it's a two-pronged response. Two things happen. One, um, there are fewer crises in your life. You encounter fewer stresses. And secondly, when they do come up, you handle them with greater grace.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Really, the reason that I wrote Destressifying was because I really wanted to share the fact with the world. Um, because a lot of the scientists who've done all this research and who've explored the brain and our response mechanisms, um, and meditation and all the components of that. Uh, no one's really paying that kind of attention to them. They're not getting the exposure
Right.
when they come out with a research paper.
Right.
Who knows who reads that? Five people, perhaps, read
No,
it.
more than five.
Okay, 55. But
55.
I'm trying to reach millions, and so um, by diving deep into this process, I learned that it's how we interpret stress. Stress is in the eye of the beholder.
Mm-hmm.
So once I was able to really connect with what I was really either upset about or disappointed about, or what need of mine was not being met, it was in that moment that I was able to, walk myself off the ledge.
Mm.
And that's where everything shifts. So
Right.
it's not like you're a Pollyanna, like, skipping along and it's all good and no matter what happens, everything's good. No, some stuff is disappointing and some stuff is saddening and some stuff really hits us to the core and some stuff we've been holding on to for many, many years. But there are three components. If we view it first as a challenge, not as a threat,
Mm-hmm.
secondly, with a finite amount of time, a starting point and an ending point, and we believe that we will grow from the experience, that actually has a nourishing and positive effect on our physiology and our emotional state.
Okay, so let's take you yesterday. Okay, so you're
Okay.
actually, oh, I'm not meeting. So you said you defined stress in your book as not meeting up to some set of expectations.
How you respond when your needs are not met.
Okay, so your needs aren't met. Oh my gosh, I want to be professional, and now I'm going to be like who knows how late.
Right? I'm
Oh my
kicking off a
gosh.
workshop late,
Right. Okay.
and everyone's there ready to meditate with me. and I'm not there.
Right. And here's the opportunity for them to all use this as as a way to be
Exactly.
present with what is.
Exactly, CJ. There were so many different opportunities where, like, this is a learning lesson for them as well. This is a teaching lesson for them and for me. Uh,
Okay, so what did you do? Because you had to walk yourself off the ledge, right? So
right.
you kind of, you had your thoughts that kind of ramped up, and then and you've been doing this for a while, right? You were at the Chopra Center teaching stress reduction for like a bajillion years, like 20 years, something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been teaching this stuff for more than 15 years, and I've trained thousands. And so, like I said, I don't train people to be robots.
Right,
I don't teach us to be not human. Really,
right,
what I teach is that your emotions don't have to master you.
right,
You can master your emotions.
right.
And there's a better response for me. And guess what? There was a lot of bottled up chemicals and hormones surging into my body, as there is for all of us
Right.
whenever we have an unmet need. So I really tried to distill it down, but in the process, um, I instantly started to breathe more deeply. So that was the first thing. I was breathing long, slow, deep breaths in through my nose, and I don't normally exhale through my mouth, but that's even more forceful. So that was like I wanted to, because I felt the surge of chemicals and hormones, and I wasn't even moving. My car was stuck. I was on a freeway that allows you to drive 65, and I had my car in park.
Wow.
And it had only been there for like a half hour.
Right.
And it turned out to be totally stopped for another 15 minutes. So first I got back into the rhythm of breathing, because
Mm-hmm.
usually the first thing we do when we experience an unmet need, someone cuts us off, someone challenges us, someone gets in our face,
Right.
someone disappoints us, the first thing we do is stop breathing. We hold our breath. We're not even aware of it. Everyone could breathe more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And by breathing, and when we do that, that's harkening back to 10,000 years ago. We're activating our fight flight response. That's
Right.
what your
We're
body
the
does.
parasympathetic, right? We're kind of so
Yes.
our body is like, oh my gosh, I'm sitting here still. I'm like going to be late. I don't know how late. So your body is escalating, the
Because it's the
chemicals in your
uncertainty.
body, right?
So
And
you
so
have
you have to calm it
uncertainty.
down.
And my perception in that moment was, this is a threat. I'm expected to be someplace. People are counting on me. We made an agreement, a formal contract, and I'm not there.
Right.
And then the flow of all the emotional stuff pours in. Oh, who am I? I'm so unworthy.
Right.
I'm not. I can't say that I'm bringing my best version, because this is not my best version.
Right.
And, go through all that stuff, less than thinking, really deep analytical ruminations. So first, I wanted to stop the flow of chemicals and hormones, and I did that very, very slowly. By very, very, I figured, you know what, we're not moving. I did not close my eyes like we, because that, I don't encourage anyone when you're in a vehicle and behind the wheel, do not close your eyes. In the passenger seat, absolutely close your eyes. Since we weren't really moving, I closed them a little bit. I let them. They were maybe a third closed, so I wasn't like staring,
Right.
out into the highway. So I just allowed my body to just relax. In that moment, I unclenched my jaw. I let my shoulders relax. I kept doing the breathing. I tightened my fists, and then I loosened them. And I did that several times. Then I started flexing my ankles and my feet, all the while keeping the breathing going. And then, as I was in park, I texted on my phone to the person who was expecting me, and I said, I'm so sorry. I'm running at least 30 minutes behind, um, but I'm on my way.
Right.
And it was about a 30-second to a minute period where it was like, what's the response going to be?
Right.
Because that was like, how dare you?
Breathing more in and out. Right.
So I just kept doing that, and then the response came back. Drive safely. We'll be here for you.
Nice.
That was that. But so the threat turned to challenge, and then the challenge was me just not trying to race there to save a minute here or there, but to get there. And the challenge for me was showing up and being totally calm and relaxed, and apologetic and leading a meditation as their first experience. So no one wants no one wants to be led in meditation by someone who's filled with anxiety.
Close your eyes. Okay, breathe.
Exactly. I said breathe.
I
So, uh, so, uh, so
love
that's
that.
really where it is. I surrendered, and I fully surrendered. I said it's totally out of my control from now on. My communication has been clear. The expectation of the other person now is the same as mine. So when I did arrive, um, nobody was like, "You were supposed to be here a half hour ago."
Yeah.
They were like, "Oh, we're so glad you're here." And I said, first of all, I am so sorry, but I had a lot of time to think about stress and relaxation. And so it lightened a little bit. And then we
Right.
had a great meditation for about a half hour. And, um, and I'm working with this group right now. So it's really exciting.
Okay, all right. I want to zoom back a little bit
Yeah.
to the science of it because, there are a couple of key things that you did as part of that practice. Your breathing, which, brings oxygen, it calms down the parasympathetic nervous system. You're like basically getting back into your body, whether it was flexing your ankles or rolling your shoulders or your neck or whatever you're doing.
Right.
Why do those things scientifically work to help us de-stress?
Well, it goes back to the fight flight response.
Yeah,
So, 10,000 years ago, we were, and maybe perhaps longer, we and all animals on the planet were hardwired with a self preservation mechanism. So, that self preservation mechanism is going to do everything in its power. It's your reptilian brain. You don't have a choice here.
right.
It's going to do everything in your power when you sense a threat. And back in the day, who knows what that was, saber-toothed tiger or something running at you, or someone with a weapon. You're either going to fight it and kill it and defeat the threat,
Right.
or you are going to run away from it. So
Right.
fight or flight. And we know that in more modern times they've come up with fight, freeze,
Or flight, yeah.
flight. There's even another one that women are actually more skilled and more hormonally enabled, and that's tend and befriend. Because
Oh,
when they hit a roadblock, they reach out looking for some type of collaboration to solve their problem. It's like pure Ganesh.
right.
They want to remove the obstacle and find a partner to help them.
Right.
That's why there's the classic, where the woman says, "Honey, why don't we just stop and ask for directions?"
Right.
You know, and the male who doesn't have the same hormone chemical is like, "No, I can do this myself." Uh, so we know that he can. So that's all hardwired in for protection. Fast forward 10,000 years, not a lot of saber-toothed tigers, or necessarily, unless you're in a war zone or in search and rescue or in emergency services or in law enforcement or in fire. Um, uh, you're not going to find great value on a daily basis in fight flight.
Right.
It doesn't serve.
Right.
So we do it in an emotional sense. My flesh is not threatened, but my ego is, my sense of self.
Right.
Someone challenges me.
Right.
And so here I was in a car, second guessing whether I had done the right things, whether I was living up to my standard, some standard that I had set,
Right.
and my expectation, my needs weren't being met in that process. So my body's doing the exact same thing it was as if I was being attacked by someone with a weapon. And even though I was only being attacked by my own thoughts, attacking my own ego, which is what we do 8 to 15 times a day, our needs are not met. And what we do with that information becomes the fabric of our life.
Okay, so that's the science behind it. Our fight and flight gets triggered. Our body starts escalating. Our emotions start getting involved. We start building up this
Right.
gigantic
Who's
mythical
the Don?
story.
Um, um, here's what hormonally and chemically happens. You start to breathe more rapidly. That makes your heart pump
Mm-hmm.
faster. So what's the best way for you to calm that down is actually to breathe more deeply and slowly. We can actually counter that. Suddenly I feel cortisol, adrenaline, glucagon, which is like eating 5 Snickers bars at once. They're all surging into
Right.
my body to get me to respond in some way. And that's why in my deep breaths in, I'm releasing that. I'm like allowing some aspect of release because it's
Uh,
all surging in. So if I was not in a car, I might pace, I might jiggle my foot, I might wring my hands together. But
right.
here I am trapped in a car. So the best thing for me to do is long, slow, deep breaths in and long sighs as I exhale. And then the movement that I'm doing is actually unwinding. It's sort of like telling myself, there is no threat here. There is
Mm-hmm.
no threat. There's a challenge, and let's put it through the thing. I see it as a challenge, not as a threat. There's a finite period of time. I know ultimately I will arrive at my destination.
Right.
May take another 2 hours, but I
Right.
know that I will arrive at my destination. So there is a finite aspect to it. Uncertainty gives us so much anxiety, uncertainty
Yes,
of
I
time.
know.
Um, and on top of that, I knew that I was going to learn and grow from this because I had said to myself at least 50 times, you will never do this again. This is the one where you've actually learned. I know you said this before to yours. I was looking in the rearview mirror as I was saying. I know you said this before, 100 times. You should leave a little earlier. But this is it. This is it. I now have gotten the message. Fool me 19 times, shame on me.
Right. I love it. Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned in your book is that there's a good aspect to all of this, right? I mean, it's one of it's like survival. So when we really do get chased by some tiger, that's good. But there's some other things that you mentioned in your book about the good side of all of this.
Yes. Well, this is the beauty of what medical science is now finding because, we can talk about all this stuff, but nothing breaks into the mainstream until people start saying, oh, and here's a medical fact or here's
Right.
a new piece of science. So now we know that having challenges like this, not threats, but challenges, our interpretation of them and the ultimate outcome of them actually doesn't just help us grow on a personal development level. It actually has now been proven to increase wound healing. So
What?
now we know that the physical body is healing when we get to the other side of a challenge
Wow.
because we actually have learned in that moment. It's like, oh, this has been a growth, this growth moment brought to you by stress. And so this is actually called eustress, EUSTRESS, EU stress. And so that's why when people are in sporting events and like the game is on the line, that's why the winner gets a huge surge of like wound healing and neural network building and all these feel good chemicals. And that's why the loser, if they can take anything away from it, like, oh, we'll never make that mistake again, they can sort of prevent that. There's even a
Oh,
new terminology. We all know PTSD.
right.
Post-traumatic stress disorder. There's a new terminology that comes from this science and this research called PTG, post-traumatic growth.
Wow. I
and
love
it's
it.
and it's based on what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Ah, okay, got it. But what if we don't do that? What if we don't do the, I want, or I'll learn more,
Then you will die.
Okay.
um,
A little bit earlier. Actually, that is true, right? We'll
yes,
die a little
yes,
bit
yes.
earlier.
No. There are massively negative physiological and emotional and life changing consequences. Some great research at the University of Wisconsin, Dr. Richard J. Davidson. They did this is a really great test. They did it in Chicago with more than 10,000 people participating in it, and you were just given answered two questions. You had to put your name and your date of birth and all your contact info, but just answer two questions. One, do you believe stress is harmful to you on a scale of 0 through 10?
Hmm.
10 meaning, yes, it's going to kill me. 0, no, it's not really harmful. And two, do you feel you are experiencing, is there a lot of stress in your life right now? Where are you on that scale of 0 to 10? 0 means I have no stress. 10 is like, ugh. And so that was it. They answered those two questions, and then they just followed those people for now it's more than like 15 years using death records.
Oh, wow. But they
So that
find
was
out.
that's the only criteria.
Wow.
So those who answered yes, I have lots of stress, and yes, it's harmful, they died. 25% more than any other group.
But that's at that moment of time. Like if you'd asked yourself while you're driving, you answered that survey, you would have answered it a particular way. Right now, you're like, Hopefully you're not stressed. But you know what I mean? So don't you think that varies based on,
Certainly it's circumstantial, so it
yeah.
matters like what's happening in your life. But when you take, 10,000 people, I would, me,
Wow.
if someone had, if a helicopter had suddenly come in and said, please take this survey while you're stuck in traffic, yes, they would have gotten me, but I would be the outlier
Okay,
in being
got yeah.
stuck in
Well,
traffic,
yeah, 10,000 people, that's a lot of people surveyed.
right? And
Yes.
and we're not talking about any other aspect. It's like,
Mm,
is it harmful and do you have it? And
mm,
if you believe yes, then you are more likely to die.
mm.
And the most likely the least likely, this is just pure mortality charts, the least likely to die over that period of time were the people who said, um, I have stress in my life, but I don't think it's harmful to me.
Wow.
So not
Interesting.
so not the people who said, "Oh, I have no stress and I don't think it's harmful," but people who said, "Yeah, I have it in my life, but I don't think it's harmful." And it's what
Wow.
we do with it. It's what we do with everything. It's
Mm,
so your stress response is actually a choice.
okay, I love that. So that tell me a little bit in the model that you came up with. So you've been working with people over the last 15 years and helping them and thousands of people helping them with stress and you came up with a model that you just actually used in your car. I mean, your de-stressifying model was
Right.
master your awareness, so you're becoming aware of what was happening to you, and like you realize, oh man, I'm like not in a good place right now. You recognize
Yes.
what your needs were, right? You said, hey man, my need is to actually feel like I'm valued and I'm representing well and like to meet my high expectations. And then you notice your emotions, mastered your emotions, you mastered your communications when you texted.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then
And
you
that
mastered
was
your purpose in life, right? To learn and grow, I presume.
yes. And so those are cultivations that
Mm-hmm.
if we can each go through that process either in a given moment or as a life agenda
Mm-hmm.
and say, you know what, I want to become more aware of myself, more aware of my surroundings, more aware of the people in my life. I want to communicate more consciously with other people. If I do that, I probably have a higher likelihood that my needs will get met. Otherwise, we're
Mm.
just ESPing all over each other.
Right.
Um, and I have attention on which of my needs is not being met. Most of the time, it's just the four needs of the heart. Somewhere they're not being met: attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And we're always looking outside to get those four needs met, the four
Right.
A's. And a lot of times, we have to say, you know what? I'm going to give myself some self attention, some self affection, some self acceptance, um, some we all want to be acknowledged, we all want to be seen, we all want to be validated, we all want to be heard.
Mm-hmm.
So often it's just something as simple as that.
Yeah.
You know,
To even like even that one step of understanding what your need is of the four A's. You said attention, affection, acceptance,
appreciation and acceptance.
and acceptance. Okay, even recognizing that is a huge aha. You know,
Oh
like
my God! In that moment that you recognize it, suddenly you've taken care of the growth aspect.
yes,
So if you can say, oh, you know what, and this stress will be finite, and I'll see it as a challenge because I already see the growth from this,
right.
then it's going to actually nourish your body instead of.
Mm. Okay, I want to take two other different scenarios that I hear all the time, and I'm sure with the thousands of people that you've worked with, you've heard before too. So, as a life coach, I get people, a career coach, who are like, I can't go to my job anymore. Like, this is a meaningless endeavor. Every day I go to my job, I feel a little part of me is dying off. And so there's how do I find my purpose? How do and oftentimes as people have fear of change, financial fears, and it causes a lot of stress. So what is that? So if you use the four A's in that moment when you're like, I just can't go to this job anymore, it's killing me. What do you think, based on working with people, what is the awareness that they're needing to identify?
Well, I think that everyone needs to know, unless you actually are a slave, which is illegal, but you have a choice. You can always quit your job. Now, I'm not telling you to quit your job, but knowing you can quit your job That should allow you to then say, how do I create the most nourishing environment for me?
Mm.
If it's like, hey, I'd like to take a break every couple of hours and just stand up and walk around, and they go, no, you must stay there and do that. Like, well, gee, unless you're paying me like $1 million a year, there's probably a lot of abusive jobs out there that aren't paying a lot.
Right.
So I could probably get one of them as well. So,
Okay.
it's just it comes from a place of self-worth.
Right.
We have to realize, you know what? I may not like the job, but my circumstances are pretty good. I'm treated very well. Either I have health care through the company, or they give me training and development, or they let me leave early once in a while, or I don't have to think about work over the weekend, something along those lines.
Right. So you're appreciating using your model. So you're aware, like, hey, I'm appreciating. It's not like a zero-sum game. I'm getting something out of this.
Right. Well, and that's another thing. If we show up, everything we show up for, and I don't mean to say everything, but really most things that we show up for, where we're like, what can I get out of this? What's in this for me?
Mm-hmm.
Well, how would you ever see what the beauty and magic of that is, if that's really all you're looking for or asking? And so turning that model on its head just once in a while to ask yourself, how can I serve others? How can I help others? How can I heal others? Not to be altruistic, but if we can do that, oh, and by the way, using our own special gifts, our own talents, then it's a win-win.
Yeah, but often
So,
I hear, but here's the thing. Most of the time, the complaint I hear is the reason why I'm feeling like this job is meaningless is I can't use my talents.
right. Okay. So that's why your dharma or purpose doesn't always have to be your job.
Ah,
If
okay.
that was the case, everyone would be quitting every 15 minutes, right? They'd be going, no, my purpose is this. Okay, forget it. And so that's why you want to cultivate that little special, magnificent piece of you. Maybe start off, ask yourself, where's my passion?
Mm-hmm.
What do I love to do? I think I'll do that maybe once a month or twice a month or on a weekend or after work, or I'll take a day off and I'll do this thing. What causes spark you? What
Mm-hmm.
things make you, have fun?
Right.
Maybe you don't have a radio show, but that doesn't mean you can't make guided meditations like I
Right.
do.
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't do an audio blog or a video blog. Maybe you can start writing a book. Maybe you want to, serve at the local hospice or the local shelter or the local, animal sanctuary. This is where we start to at least live a micron of what it is you love. And then
Okay.
see if at a certain point you're like, hey, you know what? I'll make less money, but I'll be really happy. I think I'm ready to
Uh,
make the switch. And that could be 5 years
mm,
from now. Or, you know what? I think I can balance both. I do this thing for the money. The environment is nice. I like the people I work with. It's not really fulfilling at any level. But then when I leave there, they give me the space to do all this other work that I do find fulfilling.
okay, so I hear two different solutions. One is, hey, you know what? Experience what it is to master your needs, right? Because that's what it is.
Yes.
It's, I love working with animals. And then once you can do that, then and like, I'm happy, master your emotions. I'm happy working with animals. I
Right.
like working with these kind of animals versus the animals at work. So I'm going to leave, right? Or you say, how can I balance the two? How can I balance the two? So I heard two potential strategies that people take. Now, you yourself, you were actually in an environment like that. Were you in a corporate environment, but not necessarily?
I was in the corporate world. I
Okay.
worked in New York City, worked in the
Okay.
World Trade Center. I was in mergers and acquisitions, fairly serious and soulless, at least for, for,
Wow. Okay.
for me. And but I didn't know. I didn't know that there were tools. I just certainly didn't have any tools, and I didn't know that there were tools. So I just blew up my life, and I stress to people, there's no need to blow up your. I blew up my life. I headed off to India. My whole eat, pray, love thing, without the eating and the love. Um, yeah. And so, but I stress to people, you don't have to quit your job and you don't have to go over to India. I've already done that for you. You
Right.
can actually stay home and say, I'm going to make my 6-month plan. So
Right.
that when you do leave, I jumped and hoped the net would appear. It did, but 14 months later, and 14 months is a long time to, you know, to not have a job and to not have nourishment and to be disappointing those people in your life who are counting on you for some level of stability. So I would say find that little spark of your passion. Start to move in that direction and then see where it leads. I'm a
Hmm.
big advocate of taking a step, even if it's a step into fire, and going, whoa, that doesn't feel good. I'll never step into fire again. But I'm not a fan of sitting on the couch and just closing your eyes and meditating and hoping you'll manifest something special. I think you got to
Please, yeah,
you
exactly.
got to take the step. I'm a fan of taking steps, and then as you step in life, you respond. Oh, this is better than I thought it was, or that's not really as satisfying as I thought it might be. So,
Okay, I'm going to go back to the thing you said. You blew, like, what's wrong with blowing up? And you mentioned why, but don't you think that sometimes for some people, blowing up is part of their path?
oh, absolutely, and I wouldn't change a thing. But there are people who got singed in my fire of transformation.
Ah, okay, got it.
So that's all. You know,
Okay.
I would say, oh, gee, uh, given the chance to do it again, I absolutely would. Well, I don't think you get the chance to ever like
Do it
do it
again.
again.
But
But I
most
learned
people
from
are
that.
risk
I
averse, right?
realized it was very, very selfish on my behalf. I wasn't really thinking, how's this going to impact, my family, people in
Right.
my life. Um, Not my workmates. I wasn't really too concerned about them, but
Right.
the people who were supporting me and rooting for me
Yeah.
suddenly were like, do you haven't worked like in 6 months. What's going to happen here? So
Right.
it's really coming from a place like that
Ah, okay, got it.
that I
It's the
really,
kind of the two mastering your communications. That part
yes,
of that was missing. And had you been conscious, like, hey, like what's happening? How am I going to communicate this to people and be real with what's happening so they
right.
understand versus maybe, feel like an explosion happened and they're
And it
standing
was an
outside.
explosion for me because it was in the wake of 9/11. I was in a fight flight response at that time. I was
Mm,
not feeling nourishment from what I was doing, and I was miserable. So I
yeah.
was like, oh, well, obviously I need to blow up my life and then see what happens. So I think we all need to lean in the direction of our dreams. I think we need to
Mm,
take steps. And sometimes that step, we reach our hand out someplace and it's like, oh, okay, didn't know that. But
right.
I wouldn't have known it if I hadn't reached.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, when they say, I'll say like, so where are you? Why don't you start writing down all the things you love to do?
Mm,
And they're like, well, I'm so confused of my purpose in life, but they're not writing.
right.
So you even have to put pen to paper. You have to start moving the energy, move stuff out of your head into the tangible, world.
Okay, we talked about the car, which is kind of a day in day experience. We talk about people at work, and then I wanted to go through the third
Mm-hmm.
stressors, which is the major transitions in life. You have loss of job, loss of relationship, uh, something new is happening, a major transition. You're moving. These are all kind of like transitional points, and those kind of stresses are they're different, right? Those are different kinds of stress. Because you've lost your identity in a lot of ways, you've lost the structure, you may have lost your dreams. So you're kind of in what you call the gap in your videos. How do you deal with being in the gap? How do you use your model and be in the gap?
I'm a realist, and and I believe in all sorts of kooky stuff, but I live in the real world here. And everyone that I work with, whether they're in law enforcement, special forces, whether they just recently were diagnosed or just got dumped, um, we live in the real world.
Right.
A lot of these ancient teachings that guide us were written by monks who did not have to worry about like college tuition and cancer diagnoses and trying to pay the rent. They just weren't. So there's a little more freedom for them to say, just keep surrendering to the divine light.
Right.
We have to actually pay
Right.
attention. So I think that I am a strong advocate for meditation, and I teach meditation in so many different forms. Let's do one right now
Okay,
because
perfect.
um, it's my most simple and easy meditation technique, and I use it a lot to explain to people and show people the power of meditating
Okay.
to begin with. So right now, why don't we all just envision in our mind's eye something that's been disturbing us, something that's been bothering us this week,
Okay.
some disappointment, some unmet need. Don't go too deep. This isn't therapy, but just
Right.
just something in the last 2 weeks. Someone said they were going to do something, they didn't,
Right.
or they weren't going to do something and they did. And you might even see their face in your mind's eye. You could even like see their face and connect to, like you're looking in their eyes. And now close your eyes and through your nose, take a long, slow, deep breath in and watch that breath as it goes down into your belly and hold it when it gets there and witness it and observe it. And now watch your breath as you release it. Watch it move up your chest, out of your throat, out of your sinuses, and hold that breath out and keep watching it. Keep witnessing it. And now just breathe normally, and when it feels comfortable, slowly open your eyes. So that was 16 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
If you were playing along, and you were, but if
Yes.
you were playing along to our other listeners and out there, you were not thinking about the thing that I just asked you to think about in your head. If you were
Mm-hmm.
playing along, you were actually fully present. You stepped out of the past, you stepped out of the future, you came into the present moment, and you were disconnected. And I didn't have to say, stop thinking about that irritation. You just did it the second you brought your attention to your breath.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold. And that whole time for those 16 seconds, we watched the breath as it
Mm-hmm.
in. We were
Mm-hmm.
fully present in the present moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I call that 16 seconds. I used to call it 16 seconds to bliss.
Right.
But once I started teaching cops, they were like, "What?" So I changed it to 16 seconds to clarity.
Okay, got it.
And so there was a time where I was like encouraging people, and I've taught this technique to, I don't know, 200,000 people around the
Right.
world. And I've always said, and so when you have that moment where you suddenly use 16 seconds to bring you into calm, take a selfie or have someone take a picture of you and then post it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. And so there are literally thousands of people totally blissed out, in their 16-second moment. The hilarious aspect is that, Ronda Rousey, right?
No, I don't know her.
Oh, she's the ultimate fighting champion,
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I do know her.
she just got beat, pretty bad, maybe a month ago, but she started defeating people over the last 2 years in 16 seconds. So she started hashtagging 16 seconds and posting pictures of people with like in neck locks and arm locks and stuff like that and getting pinned. So if you ever click on a 16 seconds hashtag, it's the yin and yang of
Exactly. You'll get both of
people
it.
meditating and people being, having the oxygen sucked out of their body. So pretty kooky. But that's 16 seconds. If you do it 4 times, it's a minute. If you do it 20 times, it's 5 minutes. You could do it while you're in traffic. You can do it while you're on the phone with someone. You can do it in a boardroom. You can do it in a meeting. You can do it while you're waiting on a line that's not moving. It's a great tool. It brings you into the present moment. And hopefully in the 17th second, you make a more conscious choice.
Because you let go of that story, that kind of that part of you that's like, oh, how about if I don't make it on time? Like all those things. Kind of you get separated from that mind and kind of get into some higher. I don't know. How would you describe what it is? Because when I do that, I'm no longer focused.
I call it a pattern interrupt.
A pattern interrupt. Okay, got it.
We interrupt our conditioned flow of life just for its quick timeout. It's
Yeah.
like taking a deep breath for our brain
Right.
and just suddenly going, okay, I'm back.
Yeah, you give yourself a timeout. And
Right,
little
right,
kids are like, ah! You're like, timeout.
right. So let's call it instead, because that always has negative connotations. Let's call it a time in,
A time in. Oh, I love that.
right?
That's
So this
awesome.
is our way of like, I didn't go anywhere. I just came in for a second and now I'm back.
Yes, I love
I
it.
just connected with the part of me that is still and silent. That's really what happened.
Right.
The part of me beneath the hormones and chemicals is just totally still and silent. And then there's all this activity, 60,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day. That's a
That's
thought every
awful.
1.2 seconds. Oh, it's
Yeah.
horrible.
That's
You know, they're coming. So, and that could be the most profound thought we ever have in our life. Wow,
yeah.
it's a lot of thoughts. Uh, so, so if we can instead just find the space between the thoughts. That's really
Yes.
what the gap is for me. The
Right.
space between our breath, the space between our thoughts, the space between our words and our actions. Let's
Mm-hmm.
spend just a little more time there cultivating that. And then those other things, will all flow. Stress will just drip away from us, and we will
Mm.
find deeper fulfillment. We'll find greater purpose. We'll find greater connection, greater creativity. What they're finding out about now, about just getting still and silent. It's not just, we view that as such a goofy loser tactic in our society. That's not rewarded. Someone sitting
Mm-hmm.
doing nothing.
Right.
That's the person we like mock and judge.
Right.
So to like be able to just sit for a few moments, I believe meditation is the cornerstone for starting every day. We brush
Mm.
our teeth every morning. We hop in the shower every morning. We do all these like 8 to 15 morning ablution rituals. And so if we can just push to the very, very front of that morning ablution ritual train, meditation, and I suggest doing that using my technique RPM, rise, P, meditate. And if we do that,
Rise, P, meditate. Okay, that's perfect.
right, and it's really easy to remember. And, I used to just rise and meditate, but then I found myself sitting in meditation going, I have to pee.
Yes,
So
exactly.
instead, everyone wakes up, and then you figure a couple of moments later, you're going to want to pee.
Right.
And then if the next thing you do is just sit for a few minutes, whether that's 16 seconds. When I'm teaching members of the military, we start with 16 seconds. We do that once a day for a week. And then the
Mm.
next week, we add a minute. The next
Mm.
week, another minute. The next week, another minute. So the time they've gone halfway through the year, people who would never expect to meditate have like a 25-minute a day morning practice. That's
Beautiful.
that's
I
powerful.
love that. Okay, so I'm going to try to use the next couple minutes. I think we have 6 more minutes to answer questions that listeners had. So,
Okay,
what the first one is, what is the best way to cope with stress? I think we've answered that.
I think so.
Listen to the whole interview. Can stress really hurt you, and to what level can it get to?
Yes, well, chronic stress is a massive devolution. I was with someone just a couple of days ago. Um, all their nourishing chemicals and hormones in their life were just like flatlining.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from their adrenals shutting down to their nourishing estrogen shutting down to their thyroid shutting down.
Mm.
We know that the body's trying to save itself when it senses stress. As long as there's a recovery period, it's not a big deal. you know.
Right.
But if it's day after day after day after day, so if your job makes you miserable every single day, guess what? You're going to get burnt out, crispy, and then it's going to, then you're going to have to take a medical leave
Right.
from that position. So
Right.
yes, stress can absolutely scientifically proven to suppress your sex hormone. That's reason enough to
Right.
you know to not have stress. Suppress your growth hormone, which is your nails, your skin, your hair. So if you want them to look more lustrous and more young, certainly stress is the enemy there. And stress also suppresses your immune system.
Mm-hmm.
So if you find you get sick a lot, if you find get the flu whenever it comes around or whatever the local thing is, guess what? You are allowing stress to take over your life.
Mm.
I've been sick like once in, I don't know, 8 years.
Wow.
So as far as I know, a lot of people who meditate or have a daily practice or proactively are de-stressifying, they don't get sick.
Yeah. All right.
And this is even eating, not the best food. So
Yeah. All right. So this is the cornerstone of what you said is awareness. So you have to be aware. So the next listener asks, how can you recognize what is causing a stress? And I know it's generally awareness, but how do we recognize?
well, everything's about interpretation. So it's not that my toxic relative, they're causing me stress. No, it's you letting your buttons get pushed. So I would recommend read Destressifying because there's really great tools in how to deal with every moment. But I would go through just a simple exercise of really asking yourself, who's in my front row? Who's rooting for me right now? Those are the people I want to surround myself with. We
Mm.
let people into our heads that we would never let into our homes. And they live there and they hang out there. And we're like talking about them and complaining about them. And like 10
So
years
true.
later, we're still talking about it.
You're right. Okay,
So,
so it's actually
so,
so
so it's
some practical things too.
yeah. So I say awareness, start with your front row.
Right.
Who's rooting for me? Use those people, celebrate those people, love on those people, and let them love you as well.
Okay.
There'll be a shift.
Okay, so I think that was how can we learn to listen to ourselves? Nah, I think you've answered that. How can we learn to listen? Well, how can we learn to listen to ourselves? That's a different. We
We
haven't
can
answered that.
spend a little more time um, just connecting to that stillness. So, the second we have a free moment, we pull out the device. We do. To
Mm,
see, is President Obama contacting me right now?
right.
As if is anyone
Yes.
really contacting you
Oh,
about
those 10 Facebook posts that I must read
it?
about how many puppy videos can you consume in a day?
So instead of reaching, take 16 seconds. I say if you want to really become more aware of the world around you and start really hearing your inner voice and start really connecting to things, practice 16 seconds, which is really just closing your eyes and breathing in, following it, holding it, following it, breathing out, following it, and holding it out, following it, just paying attention to that. Doing that at maybe 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6 o'clock. So
Oh,
we're
that's
talking
great.
about
Yeah,
16 seconds
exactly. It's not long.
scattered over the course of the day. You'll start to actually cultivate a breathing practice and
Mm-hmm.
you'll cultivate getting more comfortable with nothing happening.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I love that. All right, I love that idea of doing it, sprinkling it throughout the day. 16 seconds. You have 16 seconds
Everyone has 16
from
seconds.
8, 12, 4, whatever. Okay. Oh, do we change purpose in life or do we only have one?
It's a great question.
That is.
A lot of people say, no, you were born to do this one thing. I'm not a believer of that. I believe that we have um, various arcs in our life where we're doing, we're probably all here just to love, but everyone's got a different expression.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
look at the world class athlete who has a finite amount of years that they can be the world class athlete. But so when they're done actually running up and down the field or whatever they're doing, then they shift over and then they coach people or they teach people
Mm-hmm.
or they help people. So I believe we have different waves of dharma, purpose,
Mm.
in our life. And I think, they come to an end and then a next one takes over. And sometimes it can be, confusing. Where am I in that wave? But always come back to your passion because your dharma, your purpose is to connect to that passion in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in that zone, and really just ask yourself this question: when I'm doing it, does time stand still?
Mm-hmm. And if it does, you're in your zone and
That's it.
keep on moving forward. That
Right.
is your purpose.
Right.
I mean, I think our purpose is to love and to be happy, right?
Yes.
I
Absolutely.
think.
The ancient Sufi poet Hafiz said, "When all of your desires are distilled, you will cast just two votes: to love more and to be happy." So that's
Mm,
exactly what you said. But everyone's got a different way of doing that,
mm,
and that's why if we can help heal or serve others while we are living and doing the thing that's our unique gift and our special talent, and time standing still, like me talking to you, is just
mhm.
like, I think this is just like so beautiful. What a perfect metaphor, for that. Then it's like, oh, how cool is that? Then it's a win-win-win,
Mhm.
win-win-win-win-win-win. You're
Yes.
happy and you're actually adding value. You're contributing
Yeah.
some way to helping someone or easing some pain or elevating the planet.
Yes. I love that. So davidji.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can actually get your book, Destressifying, there. And for bonus for people in Seattle, where I'm from, on February 12th, you're coming. There's a pre-conference, and when you're going to be talking more about purpose and
Yes,
all of
yes.
that.
I'm attending the Hay House. I Can Do It, and I think I'm speaking over the weekend
You are on the 14th.
on the 14th. But uh, they invited me also to do a pre-conference workshop.
Yes.
I've never done that at a Hay House I Can Do It festival before, so I'm really excited.
Yeah. So davidg.com. You can sign up there, or the icandoit.com. Is that what it is? Go to
Uh,
davidg.com.
Go to davidg.com or go to hayhouse.com.
And then
So
the other thing that you have that I just signed up for is you actually have these great blog posts that have these like 4-minute meditations, which are fantastic. So folks can actually sign up for your newsletter and get those too.
right, and everything's free. You can get guided meditations, you get videos, blogs, all sorts of kooky tips, tools, techniques to help you connect more deeply with that amazing, beautiful, calm, anxiety-free, stress-free part of you.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here. That was so much fun.
Oh, thank you, CJ. What a joy to be on your show and keep it real in Seattle. And I have one message for all of you Seattle people. I've been to Seattle many, many, many times.
Yeah.
Love Seattle. It's an amazing place. I encourage everyone to adopt your next pet. And, we have an opportunity to show love to all the sentient beings in our life, the humans and the non-humans. So we transform the world by transforming ourselves. So let's do that.
Thank you. Blessings.
Blessings.
Bye, everyone.
It means so much to me that you're listening to the show. I would love your support in any way by giving me comments below or to subscribe to the show or share the show with friends. Thank you again for your support. Love and blessings.